You can feel attracted to someone and still spend hours wondering whether you actually are. You can miss them, think about them, replay their messages, imagine being close to them, and then your brain interrupts. Was that attraction? Was it emotional attachment? Was I just lonely? Do I actually want them? What if I'm forcing this? For some demisexual people, romantic feelings don't arrive as an obvious answer. They arrive as a question, then another question, then another, and eventually you are no longer experiencing the feeling. You are investigating it, quietly, constantly, because when attraction is supposed to feel instant, complicated attraction can start feeling suspicious. You don't just ask, "How do I feel?" You ask, "Am I feeling the correct thing?" That difference changes everything. A person starts becoming important to you. You notice when they text. You remember small details. You feel comfortable around them. You want their attention. Maybe you imagine holding their hand. Maybe you picture what dating them could feel like. And instead of simply noticing those feelings, you start collecting evidence. You compare how excited you are to see them with how excited you were around someone else. You analyze whether you miss them enough, whether you feel jealous, whether physical attraction is strong enough, whether you think about kissing them, whether you want them, or simply want to feel wanted. And suddenly, one feeling has become an investigation. This is where overthinking becomes dangerous. Because the more closely you inspect a feeling, the harder it becomes to actually experience it. It is like trying to fall asleep while repeatedly checking whether you are asleep. The checking keeps you awake. Romantic feelings can work the same way. You feel something, you inspect it. The inspection creates doubt. The doubt creates anxiety. The anxiety makes the original feeling harder to access. Then you interpret that uncertainty as proof that the feeling was never real. And the cycle begins again. Feel, analyze, doubt, monitor, repeat. But there is another reason this happens. Modern dating teaches people to make emotional decisions incredibly fast. Dating apps reduce attraction to a photograph. Swipe left, swipe right, match, unmatch. Hookup culture can make desire look immediate. Movies teach chemistry through one glance. Social media turns relationships into visible milestones. Everyone seems to know instantly when they like someone. So when your own feelings develop through emotional connection, trust, familiarity, and time, you may start believing something is wrong with you. You may think, "If I don't know immediately, I must not like them." But attraction does not operate on the same schedule for everyone. Sometimes it develops quietly, through conversation, through safety, through familiarity, through discovering how someone behaves when nobody is watching, through realizing that their presence has slowly become important. And that creates a brutal mismatch. Modern dating rewards speed. Your emotions may require context. The dating system says, "Decide." Your mind says, "Wait." And suddenly you are trying to manufacture certainty just to keep up. "I've talked to them 3 times. I should know by now. They're perfect on paper. So why am I still unsure?" Because attraction is not a spreadsheet. And emotional connection is not a test with a correct answer. Yet overthinkers often turn romance into mathematics. They calculate, compare, predict, test, search for signs. You might even create imaginary experiments. If they text first, I'll know. If I get jealous, I'll know. If I miss them tomorrow, it's real. If I don't, then maybe I never cared. And this is where reassurance can become addictive. You ask friends what they think. You search online. You take quizzes. You read definitions. You compare yourself with strangers describing their attraction. For a few minutes you feel certain. Then another doubt appears. So you search again. The internet becomes an emotional courtroom. Every feeling becomes evidence. Every absence of feeling becomes counter-evidence. Every romantic interaction becomes another case file. Eventually, you are not understanding yourself. You are auditing yourself. And there is a massive difference. Self-understanding says, "This is what I feel right now." Self-surveillance says, "Prove that this feeling is legitimate." One creates space. The other creates pressure. And pressure can distort attraction. You may become more interested in discovering what the feeling means than actually experiencing the person in front of you. You want the label, the certainty, the final answer. But relationships rarely provide certainty at the beginning. Sometimes you simply enjoy someone's company. Then you notice you look forward to seeing them. Then their absence feels different. Then something changes. Not dramatically, not like a movie, just quietly. And because the feeling isn't overwhelming, you question it. This is one of the darkest effects of romantic comparison. You can mistake intensity for authenticity. You can assume that if you aren't obsessed, the connection isn't meaningful. But anxiety is not proof of attraction. Jealousy is not proof of love. Obsession is not proof of compatibility. And butterflies are not a universal measurement system. Sometimes the most meaningful feeling is the one that lets you relax. You don't feel consumed. You don't feel desperate for reassurance. You simply want that person around. Their presence feels good. Their absence is noticeable. And slowly, without announcing itself, they become part of your emotional world. But modern culture is addicted to emotional spectacle. So quiet attraction can feel insignificant. There is another layer that makes this even harder. Fear of hurting someone. If you know your attraction may develop slowly, you may become terrified of leading someone on. You monitor every interaction. You wonder whether accepting a date creates an obligation. Whether enjoying someone's company means you owe them romance. Whether uncertainty makes you dishonest. So instead of allowing the relationship to unfold, you try to predict the ending before the beginning has even happened. You are trying to make the perfect emotional decision before you have enough information to make one. That creates paralysis. You don't want to reject someone you might eventually love. You don't want to pursue someone you might never desire. You don't want to disappoint them. You don't want to misunderstand yourself. So you remain in the middle. Thinking, testing, waiting. And the other person may only see hesitation. They may think you're uninterested, cold, indecisive, emotionally unavailable. They don't see the entire psychological investigation happening underneath it. You may be overwhelmed by how badly you want to get it right. That can lead to emotional performance. You start acting more enthusiastic than you naturally feel. You force yourself to behave romantically. You search for the correct amount of affection. You become an actor inside your own relationship. And the more you perform certainty, the harder it becomes to know what is actually yours. That is emotional editing. You are not necessarily pretending. You are adjusting yourself because you are afraid your natural emotional pace will be misunderstood. Eventually, you may reach a frightening point. You have analyzed your feelings so much, you no longer know what they feel like without analysis. That is when curiosity becomes disconnection. You are so busy interpreting the emotion that you stop inhabiting it. And perhaps the deepest problem isn't that you overthink romantic feelings. Maybe you've been taught that your feelings need to be immediately understandable. Fast enough. Strong enough. Simple enough. Modern dating loves clarity. Human emotion does not always provide it. Your attraction does not owe anyone a dramatic beginning. It doesn't have to arrive on schedule. It doesn't have to resemble someone else's. And uncertainty does not automatically mean absence. Sometimes uncertainty simply means the story isn't finished yet. That doesn't mean every connection will become romantic. Some won't. Sometimes the answer really is no. But you don't have to interrogate every feeling until it produces a verdict. You can notice it. Let it exist. Watch what happens next. Maybe it grows. Maybe it disappears. Maybe it becomes friendship. Maybe it becomes intimacy. Maybe it becomes romance. Maybe it becomes nothing. All of those outcomes contain information. The danger is believing uncertainty must be eliminated before you are allowed to feel. Because sometimes the mind doesn't protect you by finding the truth. Sometimes it protects you by delaying the moment you have to experience it. So you keep analyzing, keep comparing, keep checking, keep searching. Meanwhile, the actual feeling is happening underneath all of it, quietly, without a label, without a guarantee, without permission. And maybe that is the final contradiction. You can spend so much time trying to determine whether your feelings are real, that you never give yourself enough silence to actually feel them. Maybe attraction was never supposed to be a test you pass. Maybe it was never supposed to arrive with proof. Maybe the question isn't whether your romantic feelings look normal. Maybe the question is whether you can stop treating them like evidence in a trial. Because you are not a machine that produces instant certainty. You are a person. And sometimes the most honest emotional answer is not yes. Not no. But, I don't know yet. For someone who has spent years believing they must know immediately, those words can feel terrifying. They can also be the first moment the overthinking stops. And the feeling finally gets a chance to speak.